live with Christo of Bad Sons.
Christo Bowman.
This was another interview. There's not many, but this is one of the earlier ones, so it's just me speaking with Christo. This is
Tera getting a microphone.
Yeah, Tera getting a microphone. So you'll hear her in the background a little bit.
I was there.
You were there. But Christo was great. Pretty much the band that really changed his life musically was Blink-182 from right here in San Diego. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, right down the street. And thank you so much to Steve Ling and John Shannon for giving us that time with him.
We're bringing it backwards with Christo Bowman of Bad Sons.
Hey. Check 1, 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2.
Perfect.
All right.
You're from Southern California, LA area?
Yeah, that's true. Just up the road.
Yeah, not too far. Tell me about growing up in LA.
It's great. I came to LA when I was 4 years old. My parents are both flight attendants, and they were based in Miami up until that point. So I was born in Los Angeles, but I lived in Florida, and then I really came and I grew up in LA though. But I always have to throw in that those first 4 years were in Miami. But growing up in LA, it was amazing. I mean, it was idyllic, and at the same time, it was all that I really knew. So I think that I did get some perspective based off of the fact that, like I said, my parents did travel for a living, and they would take me with them all over different places.
Sure.
My mom's from Romania, so we'd go over there, and I'd go to Europe and just see all the... So I feel like I was very fortunate in the sense that I got to see a lot of different cultures, and LA being a melting pot as it is in itself, it's kind of like... I've just been around so many different kinds of cultures. Like half my family is like extremely European, half my family is extremely American. So I think that all of that kind of has to do with what got me interested in making music and being interested in communicating with different kinds of people in different ways. And I think that music is the ultimate tool for communication. Bringing back to the fact that I would notice when I would travel to these different places, I would hear certain songs. I'd hear a song in England and I'd hear it in Los Angeles, I'd hear the same song in Romania, and not every song is able to do that. So I think that kind of spawned my fascination with pop music.
Yeah.
And,
Can you recall a song that did that to you?
Yeah, I remember I was probably like 6 years old or something like this, and I was in Romania at a skate park in Bucharest, and All the Small Things by Blink-182 was playing. And that was the summer that I became obsessed with that song. I would sit in front of MTV, glued to the TV, and just wait for it to come on. And I remember very specifically asking my dad, because I didn't understand why the song wasn't in Romanian. When I was in Romania, I was like, what? So that was my first experience with that. I was like, these people are listening to English music? Like that was really strange to me at the time. And I think once I figured out that was something you could do and that it could reach that many people, my mind was kind of blown. And I think that was sort of what, ignited the spark for what really got me interested in doing this.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you're in Los Angeles growing up, who are your biggest influencers on your life early on?
Musically speaking, or
sure, yeah, musically speaking.
Okay, well I think it does all start with Blink. I just loved pop music, so I loved whatever I was hearing or being exposed to. I loved the music I was hearing in movies at such a young age. And I think that Blink-182, but at the same time, it was Disney movies and Backstreet, NSYNC or whatever it was.
Right.
This is 1999, right? And I'm 5 years old. So this is what is speaking to me. And then Blink-182 came around and it was different. And it was pop and it was on all the stations. But there was something about it that just was different to me. So that was definitely a big influence. I mean, being from Los Angeles, it's kind of, you can't really escape the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I always really loved them and their music and the guitar playing and all of that. And I'm going back to really young.
Yeah.
And then as I got into middle school and high school and was really kind of becoming interested in being in a band, I think at that time it was I had caught on to the Strokes and the Arctic Monkeys when their first record came out, and bands like that, and that kind of just kept going from there. And then going back into the past. I remember when Green Day's American Idiot came out. That was the year I started playing guitar, and that record came out, and that was huge for me. And I remember my mom bought me the CD after school one day or something. This moment was when I thought that my dad was the coolest person in the world. I was obsessed with this Green Day record, and then he went, "Oh, you like this?" And he took me to his CD collection, and he pulled out Dookie.
Oh, wow.
Which came out the year I was born, and I had never heard it at this point.
Oh my gosh.
And so he played it for me, and I was just mind blown, and that was kind of, that started my obsession with Green Day.
That's amazing. That was the first record I ever got as a kid. I remember listening to it in my bedroom with my headphones on because I was all worried about my parents. No, because they got it for me and I was super young and it had a bunch of bad language in it for the time. And
definitely,
that's so rad that you grew up on Green Day and Blink.
Yeah, California like punk, pop stuff was really kind of that was my introduction to all that kind of stuff.
So was guitar the first instrument you learned to play? Like, how did you get involved in playing instruments?
Well, guitar was actually I don't know how true this is, but guitar was the first instrument I really chose to play, in the sense that when I was really young, I think my parents or whatever, they'd put me in piano lessons or just kind of like how parents will try, and eventually even I think they put me in guitar lessons, but like the dude was trying to get me to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Mary Had a Little Lamb. It's like, I don't want to do this. And so by the time I came around, and then after that I played violin, and I hated it so much. Like, I went to school, that was one of the elective classes. I wanted to do something musical, so my parents figured, well, violin was what they offered, so I did that, and I hated it, man. I had to practice all the time, and it was just horrible. It sounded like screeching. And I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger than me. I think I was like 7 at this time, so she was like a baby. And I tricked her into breaking my violin. And then I was just like, I'm sorry, she broke it. It was an accident. You know what I mean? I don't think I can play anymore. And then it ended there. And then I learned to play the trumpet. I became really fascinated with the trumpet for some reason, because I think I saw The Music Man.
Oh, right.
Like, I was really young when I started playing music, so all these references aren't necessarily the coolest things in the world, but it's, I have to own up to it.
But that's awesome.
It's what got me into it. And then when I was like 9 or 10, that's when I decided, this is after, Blink-182, that awakening, and I decided that I wanted to play guitar, and I had a guitar teacher who I would just bring in songs, and he would teach me how to play what I wanted to play, and that was kind of a game changer, and that was 15 years ago this month.
Wow.
Actually, yeah.
Wow. That's so awesome. Was the first band you ever joined, was that Bad Sons? Was that your first band, or did you have bands prior to that?
Yeah, it wasn't my first band. I kind of I've always just been writing songs, and I got into it so early that nobody around was really interested in the same types of music or being in a band like I was in 5th grade. So luckily at this time we kind of had the advent of things like GarageBand, and where I was able to I kind of figured out, well, I can just learn all these instruments and make recordings on my own. So I started with the guitar, and then I learned how to play the bass, and then I learned how to play the drums, and I would just sort of make demos. And that's what I did all the time after school. I was just writing songs and recording demos, and kind of I've basically been in I had one band name that I stuck with for a long time, and just whoever my friends were at the time would kind of come in and help me out and flesh out these songs that I was writing. I was doing that at the time when I met Gavin in junior high school in 7th grade. It was like the first or second day of school, and we were in science class together, and he kind of poked my back or whatever. He's like, hey, you're the new kid, right? Because I was the new kid at school. I was like, yeah, I saw your MySpace page, and I saw you like Blink-182. It's like, me too. And then that's kind of that's what spawned our friendship. And
that's so awesome.
And it was a few years after that, though, when we really started playing music together. And then Miles and I met through another band that we were both sort of moonlighting in. And then we kind of left and started this other band with Gavin. And then a few years later, Ray, we were all in the local scene playing at venues there's this place called the Cobalt Cafe in Canoga Park around where we grew up, where every band would kind of play. So we all ran in the same kind of circles and swam in the same pools, and eventually we were looking for a guitar player, and we knew of Ray and he knew of us, and he just messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, we should jam. Wow. And then since then we've been Bad Sons, and this is 2012, the very beginning, January.
So you've always been in that the internet world as far as music goes. So that's really awesome that you were writing songs at such an early age. Do you have those MP3s still
tucked away
deep?
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
I'm really happy that MySpace lost all their music the other day or whatever.
Oh, right. No one could ever find it.
There was some dirt on there. I'm sure people can dig it up somehow.
Oh man! So you start Bad Sons in 2012,
yes.
And you guys write this song "Cardiac Arrest." And the thing just goes viral online. Tell me about that, because you didn't have anything out, right? That was kind of the first thing you put out.
No, yeah, that was the first thing that we released, and it was the last thing that we expected, because by the time that we had actually released that song, we had a manager at the time, and we he was kind of losing his interest, and we kind of felt okay, well, we have this we had an EP of songs, and the songs were like, it was half of the first record. It was Cardiac Arrest, Transpose, We Move Like the Ocean, Matthew James, and then a song called Defeated, which ended up being on the second record. But we brought it into him, and he's just like, look, man, just no one's gonna care about this, you know, like it's you guys are really talented, whatever, it's cool, but like this kind of music isn't happening. And we were just devastated, and I think we were kind of I think we believed him. And we had been through this before, you know. It's like it wasn't like the first song we had ever written. It's like we had been trying for a long time at this point, but we weren't going to give up. And we just put it on online kind of for our friends to hear. And then Miles, our drummer, we drove to K-Rock's radio station and just kind of like dropped off a demo CD in their mailbox, real old school. And then a couple of like months later, they randomly emailed us and said, hey, we're going to play it on our locals only show.
Yeah.
And then we thought, okay, cool, that's amazing, we're going to be on the radio.
Yeah.
But we didn't expect what was going to come next, which was as soon as that got played, our emails just started blowing up. Managers and people from record labels and booking agents and all this kinds of things. And we were kind of like blown away, and it
must have been overwhelmed.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, this was all based off of a song that we had already given up on. We had already been told like this isn't going to work, and I think, like I said, we believed it. So it was kind of surreal how it all picked up from there.
And then so you're getting all these emails, all these people are contacting you, and then you guys signed to Vagrant Records. How did that decision come about? How did you get hooked up with those guys?
We were being courted by a bunch of different labels, and we were, you know, the independents that we were talking to, them in particular, it was a lot more appealing to us than what the majors were trying to bring to the table. I think us being so young, like we were 17, 18 at the time, and, you know, it's like we knew a lot of other kids our age who were like in situations where they would get signed to a development deal to a major label, but you know, it's like you're not really signed to Warner Brothers Records. They're not giving you the same resources they're giving to Muse and the Chili Peppers.
Of course not.
You're getting like a 360 deal, and like you're locked into a contract. So we were really weary of just making bad choices because we had to carry around with us the fact that we were so young. And Vagrant just they really understood what we wanted to do, and we really just at that time it was the perfect thing. And our manager at the time, Brian Ling, had experience with them working with the band Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Who he also manages and who they had signed. So it just kind of all the stars sort of aligned.
Okay. And then when did you first start touring? Was that after signing to Vagrant or?
Yeah, we would do kind of like, you know, hop in the SUV and drive to San Diego or drive to, you know, before then at this point, just kind of doing little rinky-dink gigs on our own. But it really started to rev up in like 2013. That was when we officially released the song Cardiac Arrest. And that was when we started like doing these West Coast tours. And then 2014 was our first national tour.
And were you guys headlining on that tour?
No, we weren't. We were opening for a band called the Royal Bangs, who have since broke up. But the singer Ryan has went on to form this company called Hologram Electronics, and they make these incredible guitar effects pedals that we use on our records, and we connected those dots years later.
Oh wow.
Random bit of information, but
that's awesome.
We were playing to like 5 to 10 people a night and just having the best time of our lives.
At some point there, you guys start touring with the 1975.
Yeah, that was soon after. That was a few months later.
And tell me about that. Like,
that kind of changed everything, because we went from playing to like 10 to 20 people to we were opening their like sold out shows all across the country, and we kind of we got a following really quickly based off of that, you know, and it helped what was happening with the song and everything. But being able to go and do what we do as a band live in front of that many people, I think really kind of got the ball rolling for us, and it's just sort of been snowballing since then.
Sure. So you put out two records on Vagrant, and then you did the 1975 tour. You played Coachella.
That was crazy.
Yeah, tell me about seeing your band name on this iconic Coachella poster for the first time. Being from LA, I mean, that must have been...
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I remember that morning specifically, because they don't tell you when the lineup's going to get announced. It kind of just, like, we knew we were playing, but the announcement came as a surprise.
Oh, okay.
So I remember I was sitting in bed, and I like opened my computer, and I was like, oh, wow, and I saw our name on the Coachella lineup, and I was just sitting there like amazed. And then my mom like walked into my room and was like, Chris, take out the trash. And
you're like, Mom, I'm playing Coachella.
I took the trash out, and I was like, it was great. I was never so happy to take out the trash.
That's amazing. And then you just signed with Epitaph recently.
Last summer.
Yeah, and your record kind of, it just came out.
Yeah, like a week ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah. How did you guys get hooked up with Epitaph? And what was that process?
It was a similar type of thing to where, again, our Vagrant kind of dissolved as a label, and they sort of merged into this thing called BMG, and it sort of, we split amicably with them. We kind of had different things going on, and then the same sort of thing happened where there was another recording process with labels. And you had the majors, and again, Epitaph being like they're basically like a major label,
but they're still
they're
indie.
Independent, yeah,
right.
But they were passionate about the band, and they said all the right things, and they've been just incredible, and we're so thankful to be working with them. And Brett Gurewitz, who's from Bad Religion and the founder of the label,
sure,
is from Woodland Hills, which is our hometown. And
wow,
he went they all went to high school like a stone's throw from my house, so we bonded over that, and we're so happy right now.
Putting the record out on Epitaph, did you guys approach this new album any different than the previous stuff?
Not based off of the fact that we were putting it out with Epitaph, because we didn't even know that until after we had finished writing it. But we did approach this record differently than records past, just for our own artistic reasons or whatever. We felt like the first record was a really, really great snapshot of where we were at the time. The second record, I think, was sort of like we had never toured before we made the first album.
Mm-hmm.
And then in between those first two records, we played, hundreds of shows, and we really just got better as a band. And I think we had a more heightened idea of what we wanted to do with our sound. And I feel like we really achieved that. And we're really proud of that record. And then we sort of felt like we had an opportunity to sort of come out with a fresh slate for this new one. And we really just took it back to songwriting, and we didn't feel like we had to use any of the same tropes we had done in the past. Like if I sat down, and because I think our sound is really, there's like an intrinsically linked guitar sound that people
Mm-hmm.
come to recognize, and like that it's not completely absent from the record. It's on there in certain songs, but we didn't feel like we had to try and make what people's idea of a Bad Sons record were. I think we felt like a new heightened confidence as songwriters to where we could just see what that meant and explore, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think it's it's
an amazing album.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I'm stoked on it. I think it's our strongest body of work. I don't know. It's tough to say. People will always, whatever your first record that you find out about a band and fall in love with tends to like stay your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like the first Tame Impala album is still my favorite Tame Impala album,
sure.
even though they've gotten better. But it's just something about that. But I think I'm happy with the progress we're making as a band.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and chatting with us. The last question I really have for you is, do you have any advice for artists, aspiring artists?
Yeah, I think if you feel it in your gut and you know that you're going towards the right thing, and then you just can't allow yourself to be deterred. And, if you know that you're meant to be doing this kind of thing, as cliche as that might sound, but I think that that's what really brought us all together, was we knew that we had no option, that this was what we were going to do, and we were going to face rejection as many times as necessary in order to get there. And we did face a lot of rejection. So just keep your head up and like learn from those experiences, because there is a lot to learn, and it takes first of all, you're going to write a lot of bad songs before you get even close to writing one good one. So just write the hell out of those bad songs and write as many of them as you possibly can. And then, the tap water turns from rusty to clean at a certain point, and it comes out nice.